The head of the Justice Department's Washington, D.C. Criminal Division has just resigned. In an email obtained by CBS News, Denise Cheung tells her colleagues she is leaving her role. Her resignation comes one day after President Trump announced he nominated Ed Martin for Washington's top federal prosecutor job. Martin is a loyal ally of the president and defended January 6th rioters. Let's bring in CBS News Department of Justice reporter Jake Rosen. Jake, thank you for joining us today. Tell us what we know about all of this so far.
Well, right, this continues kind of the turmoil that we've seen at the Department of Justice over the last couple of weeks. We obviously saw 7 resignations in the Department of Justice and in SDNY up in New York after the Eric Adams decision to drop the charges in his case of corruption last week. Now, in a different matter, these are still career prosecutors who have worked their entire careers doing this kind of stuff, whether it's violent crime just in D.C. or other criminal charges. The head of that division has resigned after Ed Martin, who is an election denier, again, like you said, a staunch ally of Donald Trump, and has also really signaled that he is kind of working with, or at least alongside, Elon Musk in kind of giving oxygen to a lot of the fraud and spending and waste claims that have been mentioned, in addition to claims that Elon Musk has echoed on social media, unfounded, that there are, increased threats against conservatives, coming out from Congress members and things like that in their rhetoric against Donald Trump in the last couple of weeks. So we'll have to see what the further fallout of this is after this. But again, just another kind of domino falling down here in D.C. and related to really just career prosecutors not being willing to participate in the Trump Department of Justice.
Yeah, yet another resignation to put on the list there. Jake, this comes amid a flurry of other resignations at the Justice Department. Federal prosecutors are stepping down in protest to a DOJ order to drop corruption charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. At a press conference this morning, New York City Comptroller Brandon Lander says he believes Adams puts his own interests above those of New Yorkers to get his case dismissed. Let's take a listen to that.
That then became even clearer last week when the Justice Department turned the process of so-called justice into a kind of hostage-taking and made clear right out in public for everyone that his case dismissal was contingent on his doing their bidding on immigration and who knows what else.
So, Jake, what is your reaction to all this, and how do we expect this to play out?
Well, what you just heard there is really what we've heard from a lot of people coming out of New York City the last couple of weeks as this Eric Adams decision loomed into then finally a move on Friday night to drop the case. Early this morning, the judge in that case, who would have to sign off on any official ending of the charges and case against Eric Adams, it called both parties in tomorrow at 2 p.m. in New York City to hear from both sides on the case of what the Department of Justice actually wants to do, to hear from the career Department of Justice employee who is going to be bringing forward that motion. And the judge really has very little power over what he can do in the long haul. In this case, it looks like the judge will probably have to drop these charges, but we've seen calls in New York City for Eric Adams to not make it to November in the mayoral election there, to drop out before then. We saw Kathy Hochul last night, the governor of New York, say that she's concerned about his long-term standing as mayor. What that really means is yet to be determined, whether that means she expects him to step down in the short term or whether maybe she expects him to not get involved in the mayoral race for another term.
And Jake, I also want to ask you about a hearing we're following today. It's happening in Washington, D.C. over President Trump's order to ban transgender service members from the U.S. military. What do we know about that?
Right, and the hearing is still ongoing. They took a bit of a 15-minute break, which is why I'm here talking to you. But Judge Ana Reyes is hearing that case. It goes back to that executive order that Trump promised on the campaign trail and put in place on Inauguration Day, in which he called it a trans ban on military members, meaning people who are transitioning, in the process of transitioning, or want to be recruited into the military who have transitioned are no longer welcome. The Army echoed that sentiment in a tweet earlier this week, and attorneys for 7 plaintiffs who are trans military service members with over 50 years of experience, 60 medals, are bringing a case representing their clients, saying this is unfair, that these people have done exactly what was asked of them in a military role, and that they are still fit to serve, if not just fit to serve, fit to continue ranking up in the military. We'll see. That case, the executive order is currently on pause by the judge right now. The hearing today is whether to extend that indefinitely or for the next couple of weeks as further litigation plays out. But again, this judge, Ana Reyes, has put a halt so far on one of Trump's major campaign promises.
All right, Jake Rosen, thank you so much for your time today.